What's up, good people? Welcome to the Joe Fleetwood podcast. If it's your first time listening to the show, make sure you go check me out at www.joefleetwood.net. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Also, when you go to joefleetwood.net, you can also find all my social media links, and you can find stuff like this beautiful Joe Fleetwood signature hat in my merchandise store. Now, let's get right into today's show, because one of the things that I love about doing when podcasting is bringing stories right back around and bringing stuff to the forefront. Now, of course, the internet has been having a blast with the situation going with Diddy and his legal troubles when it comes to the situation of trafficking, prostitution, and racketeering, all the charges that were brought up against him a couple of weeks ago. Now, also during that time frame, I did a podcast, and what I said was, hey, when you look at the grand scheme of things of when these troubles started, when he sued his liquor brand is when all of the issues for Puffy started to happen, right? That was one of the first things that I said when it happened. Then, of course, later on in my podcast, I was like, man, you know what? I believe that a lot of the issues stemmed when he sued the liquor company. And I'll have that podcast card listed here. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually go back and check it out. And if not, I want to say it's episode 16. It's either 16 or 15. Is when I was talking about that whole Diddy situation, and him suing his company. So fast forward, after the podcast is out, people have checked it out. I ended up getting a message saying, hey, you were right, from a friend of mine. From two people, I got the same message citing the same kind of thing from 50 Cent when it came to talking about Puffy and his legal troubles, because he said in the interview, he was like, hey, all of those issues that Diddy are having, he was like, it started out as a civil case. Don't be surprised if it quickly turns into a criminal case. So don't take my word for it. Let's go ahead and hop right into that that interview that 50 was having when he mentioned Puffy and the potential for legal issues when it came to his dealings with the liquor company, and then the current situation that he's in right now. Check it out.
With major corporations like me, my particular experience with Beam Suntory, it was great in the beginning. It's great for us to work for them. It's not so cool when you start to own things. You see what I'm saying? So I made a lot of money with them too. Like, there's a point they did a deal that mirrored what Puffy's deal with Diageo was for Ciroc. So he didn't have ownership of that at any point, but he was getting a lot of money, like almost like $60 million a year at one point. So you see him go to daily on is when you see him have some issues. And these people have really strong relationships. Don't think that the civil case doesn't turn into a criminal case faster because he's making them uncomfortable. That's a big part of it. The spirits business is it's not governed. They got a Discus Board that they created, right? If you got two companies that are $3 billion and Beam Suntory and Diageo, the distribution level is very hard for you to get things to a point where you can do the numbers, the right numbers. They incentivize the sales force by giving them box bonuses. And then when you sell a product, you get the bonuses off the boxes that's there. But you make that no matter what product you're selling. So if you sell Hennessy or Remy out the gate, they start to put downward pressure on the new company. Experience with major corporations.
So one of the things to pay attention to in that interview, there's some big names you need to pay attention to. Beam Suntory. The other one is the Discus Board, right? So let's talk about what the Discus Board is, because when he said that it wasn't governed, I was like, hey, isn't the oversight when it comes to the beverage business, like, doesn't the FDA have a hand in it? Or if there's an issue with it, doesn't the what is it, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, don't they regulate these businesses? So I said, you know what, let me figure out what the Discus Board is. So first of all, let's talk about what Discus stands for. It stands for Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. Now that we know what it stands for, let me tell you exactly what it is they do. They handle all business policies governing spirits at the state level, federal, and international level. So once you go on their website, you can actually see the brands that are part of the Discus. And what you'll see is Bacardi, and you'll see Beam Suntory. Now, Beam Suntory is not the actual name of the company now because they've since changed their name from that to Suntory Global Spirits. And it'll start to make sense a little bit later on. And when I saw it, I was like, man, this comes back full circle. And it now, to me anyway, it makes total sense. And I don't want to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, so to speak, but when you look at the chain of events, it does make sense. And when you look at how much reach the Discus boards have, because if you listen to what I just said, they control state, federal, and international issues and distribution of liquor, especially within the United States. So, and here's where you can find, and as we get further into the story, it'll continue to make even more sense. Now, in that podcast, I talked about Jay-Z's deal and when he sued Bacardi. So for those of you who don't know, let me explain to you what happened with his issue with Bacardi. Now, if you're familiar with Jay-Z, you know that he has the Douce brand cognac, and he has all different types of the cognac. So what happened was Jay-Z and Bacardi did a joint venture deal. It is a 50-50 split. So after the evaluation came out that the brand itself, Douce, was worth $3 billion, Jay-Z wanted to sell a portion of his cut back to Bacardi to make them the majority owner while he still held a significant owner stake within Douce. Now, the stake in which he wanted to sell was 25% because, like I said, it was a 50-50 deal. He wants to sell an additional 25%. Now, if the company has a valuation of $3 billion, his 50% is worth $1.5 million. Selling 25% of that would be $750 million. Well, that's the math that I'm doing based off of a $3 billion valuation. Apparently, it's the exact same math that Jay-Z and his team was doing based off of that exact same evaluation. What Bacardi did was they came back and said, the value that you think your stock is worth, it is absolutely not worth that. It's worth anywhere from 460 to 500 million. So Hov wasn't having that. So remember, we talked about the Discus Board, and they handle issues between these spirit companies and the people that these companies deal with. So in the beginning, Jay-Z had to go to arbitration, which typically is a part of any type of deal or partnership that you have before you even go to any type of course, is that you go through several points of arbitration. Now, Jay-Z goes through all of the points of arbitration, and he loses every last point of arbitration. Completely loses. Now, you got to ask yourself, and if I hadn't done the research on this, I wouldn't have put any stock into what I'm saying, or what, I shouldn't even say what I'm saying, to what 50 Cent is saying about the amount of power that the Discus Board actually has. But when you do your investigation on this story, you find out that during arbitration, and this arbitration goes through that board, Barty wins hands down. Now, the crazy thing about that is when I went to the Discus Board website, of course, it's because it starts with a B, but Bacardi is the first entity that is listed. So that was like, oh man, that's crazy. But it just so happens that Bacardi was the number one spirit brand that was listed on their website. What else? Okay, yeah, like I was saying, he lost every last one of those points of arbitration with the Discus Board. Then he says, all right, cool. Arbitration is done. I lost all of these, I lost all of these cases in arbitration. We're going ahead and take this to the high court. So that's what he does. He proceeds to take it to court. And what do you know? Now, it is undisclosed, but miraculously, the case is settled. And the unofficial report is that Jay-Z got the $750 million lawsuit settled. So the deal was restructured. He sold that portion, and now Bacardi is a 75.01% owner of the brand Douce, with Jay-Z still holding the 25% owner stake that he had left out of his 50% JV deal. Now, I don't care who y'all. A check for $750 million ain't bad. You know what I mean? That's crazy. $750 million. But he leveraged his success. He leveraged who he was. He did a deal, created a brand. Obviously, Bacardi saw some potential in it. They saw the potential in him. The brand actually took off. It soared. Now, one of the things that he did mention is that in order to lower the valuation, Bacardi was doing like some shady business when it came to Douce. When it came to they lightened the marketing load, the reduction in sales. So they did a lot of things to try to lower the valuation. Of course, the Discus Board arbitration, all of those points went unchallenged, and that's just part of the game, and it sucks. So that was the deal with Jay-Z. Now remember, his came. I think his came before 50s came, because I think 50s was in 20, not 50. I mean, his came before 50s. I think Jay's was in 2022. I believe it when his happened. Actually, I think it was around the same time, because no, it wasn't around the same time. Jay's was in 2022. 50s was in 2024, March of 2024. Yeah. And let me make sure I got the dates right on that, but I'm close to being positive. I don't want to give you guys the wrong bad guys. I always like to fact check myself. So Jay-Z's started in 2022, and 2022, and it was settled in 2023. And then 50, when it came to his situation, it looks like it started in 2024. So let's get into 50s and what he had going on with his liquor company. So for those of you who don't know, 50 has done a lot of liquor brand deals. If you look at his track record of doing deals, the first one that he did was with Vitamin Water, and Coke came and bought it for $1 billion. He had significant stake in it. So he had the whole, and that's not, and for those of you who don't know, I mean, everybody's seen Vitamin Water in stores. It's not a liquor, but that's the first brand deal that he had outside of his Reebok deal for the G Unit shoe, RBK. So that was another deal that he had. But when it comes to these type of deals, he's come up in the game, so he's kind of used to it, and he does his research, and you can tell just by some of the interviews that he's done and the things that he's put on his social media when it comes to talking about doing a lot of these deals. Now, 50 owns what's known as Sire Spirits. At one point, he did a deal with the Dallas Mavericks to kind of get his the spirit Sire Spirits liquors at the Dallas Mavericks at their arena. So he had a lot of going on, and he's partnered with a bunch of other professional basketball. I believe he has a few baseball teams as well that he's partnered with. So he's no stranger to doing these deals, and he's no stranger to the liquor industry. I remember when he came out with F Vodka, which I don't hear him promote F and Vodka anymore, but I know when it hit, man, myself and a lot of my partners, we were all over the F Vodka. Like any party that we was going to, any party that we was having, we definitely had to have F Vodka there. So, around, and let me get the dates right. Like I said, I believe it was 2024. Yeah, 2024. 50 had an issue with Beam Suntory, which was the company that I was talking about earlier. So we already have Bacardi. And then we have Beam Suntory, who changed their name to Suntory Global Spirits. So 50 said, and this is the crazy part, because I remember this entire chain of events, and I remember the whole like the transaction between him and Beam Suntory at the time. So 50 claimed that Beam Suntory had been embezzling funds from Sire Spirits. Now, as you know, he has Branson Cognac and he has Le Chimay Duois, which is the champagne, which I still haven't tried. Need to. Matter of fact, after we get off here, I'm probably gonna end up ordering me a bottle because I wanna know what it tastes like. It's a $350 bottle of champagne. I gotta have it. So I'll let you guys know how it tastes when I get it. But like I said, he has Branson Cognac and Le Chimay Duois champagne. So those are the ones that he promotes. Now the claim was that Beam Suntory, like I said, was embezzling $6 million in funds. And what they were doing is that they were overcharging for the liquor. And then they were also overcharging for like admin fees, distribution fees, things of that nature. So they were basically hiking up the price that they would invoice to Sire Spirits. And then Beam Suntory was taking kickback. So they were overcharging them. So that in turn, what that did was that had 50 paying a higher margin in taxes, and then also a higher margin in business fees. So basically, if you know anything about business, you have what's known as a burn rate. That's the amount of money that you burn throughout a month in order to keep the business going. So basically, 50's burn rate is up here when it's really down here because they were overcharging. So when they overcharge a wholesaler, let's say I buy 25 cases of Branson Cognac, and let's say those 25 cases is supposed to cost me, we'll just say $5,000. But what they were doing was they were billing it out at, we'll say, 10 grand, and then kicking back another 5,000 to whoever it was that was brokering the deal. So basically, they were overcharged. So what that did in turn was cause 50 to have all of these. It wasn't really money issues because taxes and everybody was getting paid. But I guess somewhere along the way, as a smart businessman would do, you would start doing an audit. You will want to see what it is you're actually paying for. You have your accounting team go check the books. They go check the books. Next thing you know, we got a problem. We ain't talking about a little problem. We're talking about a big problem. And that big problem came out to be Mitchell Green. Now, you might have seen 50 on his Instagram page talk about Mitchell Green because Mitchell Green seems to be the one, and he pled guilty to he was the brand management over at Beam Suntory. So he was over 50 Cent's brand. But he was the one who pled guilty to at least $2 million of embezzlement while he was working for Beam Suntory. So he embezzled $2 million. Now, if you remember, 50 talk about, because part of the settlement, because he had just got married, had a kid, and I believe in one of the dispositions, it was saying that he may have to put his house up. 50 was like, I'm going to take the house, and I may even leave the pictures up of your wife and kids in the house. Dude just went ham on him about it. Now, even with all of that being said, so Beam Suntory is saying that, hey, 50 is misrepresenting what happened. So I'm trying to figure out, my man, how is he misrepresenting what happened when your man Mitch Green just pled guilty to embezzling $2 million? He just pled, and he had a house built, He bought a house, had it built, and he about to lose it for embezzle. But it doesn't stop there. So not only does Mitchell Green owe $6.2 million in back to 50 because of everything it cost him, he also owes $2.7 million in cost, damages, and attorney fees. So 6.2 plus the 2.7. My man out 8.9. Might as well call it 9 million. And you finna get time. So it ain't no telling how far You know what I mean? That goes when you peel back more layers of the onion. So when 50 says, you know, the issue with the discus board can cause you some major heat, I can understand why now. So not only that, but 50 goes on his Instagram and he says, you can change your name from Beam Suntory to Suntory Global Spirits, but you still robbed. I just want mine. Tell your friends in your discus meeting, you have not been compliant at all. So there you go right there. I mean, and for 50, this is not over yet, because in 2025 is actually when the case is supposed to go to trial. So we already know that Mitchell Green is done for. Now, also there were reports that Mitchell Green had to be put on a suicide watch just based off of the charges, and then when all the money came out, I don't know what to tell you, Mitch, but it ain't a good look for you. And 50 want his money. He he already plastered your face all over his social media account. He plastered you and your wife. I have no idea why you would want to go there. I don't. That was a bad move. And then 50 Cent of all people. You know this man leverages his Instagram in order to make life hard on other people. He leverages that. So yeah, that's the discus board, and those are all the issues that I have uncovered. Now there are a lot of other rappers who have liquor deals and brand deals with these spirit companies. And I just want to say, hey, if you got a deal out there, man, be careful. Because if you don't have, the business mindset and savviness, they're going to take advantage of you. And then you could end up in a position like Diddy. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, I would have never known anything about the discus board if I hadn't heard 50 say it. And, when you look at the Jay-Z's case, to lose every point of arbitration that was mediated by the discus board, and then to have to go to court in order to get a actual to get the original valuation honored. Come on. And then you have Beam Suntory embezzling $6 million from 50 Cent for overcharging. That is crazy. And then even when you go to their website to figure out what discus is, you can clearly see that from state to international distribution, the discus board has its hand in anything. And it's in the name, Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. So when he said that they're not regulated, they have a discus board. Yeah, they're not. So you know what I mean? Just be careful out there, man. If you got these brand deals, hey, Jeezy, I know you got yours. There's a couple of other people who have brand deals. Ryan Reynolds has a brand deal. I think Michael Jordan just got one. I had his vodka. Matter of fact, if you want to see it, check out the first podcast I did with it's podcast number 1. And hold on a second. Guy's name right on the right on, man. This is gonna bother me because it's the first podcast I did, and I want to shout him out, man, because he was the first one who actually gave me an interview, and he didn't. Rico Strong didn't even have to look it up. Rico Strong. Shout out to Rico Strong, man. Like I said, he was the first one to be on the podcast, and trust me, guys, every day I'm reaching out to people to try to get other interviews onto the podcast. But shout out to Rico Strong. He actually put me on to that Michael Jordan tequila. And man, it was good, man. That whole I want to say midpoint of the interview. I think the interview lasted an hour, maybe a little bit longer. Halfway through, man, I was blitzed. I was sweating and everything, man. So once again, I want to say thank you guys for checking in with your boy Joe Fleetwood, the hustler. Make sure you go to joefleetwood.net. Follow me on my other social media platforms, man. Everything is up there, all the links. And once again, if you're watching this on YouTube, I want to say thank you. Please like and subscribe. share. It's free to do all those things, man. It's free to subscribe and it's free to like, post a comment if you like what you heard, or if you have some other points of interest that you'd like me to kind of do a piece on. You can reach out to me via email, Joe at joefleetwood.net. You can reach me there. Also, if you go to my website, you can go to contact and you can send me a message there, man. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you for chopping it up with your boy, man. Peace.